everyone, welcome to this week's edition of India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayantara Rai. Today, we've traveled to the outskirts of Ahmedabad to the 440-acre factory of Arvind Limited. It's an 85-year-old textile company, but betting big on a whole bunch of new age businesses. I'm here to interview the 32-year-old Kulin Lalbhai. Let's find out how Kulin is spinning a new yarn at Arvind. And now I'm going to be in conversation with Kulin. Kulin, thank you so much for inviting us to your factory here.
It's wonderful to have you guys
Thank
here.
you so much. I want to first ask you about Kulin the entrepreneur. Did you always know that you were going to join the family business? Did you always know that you were going to join Arvind?
No, so I grew up obviously seeing my father build Arvind into the company that it is today. So I've always had kind of a draw towards business. So when I was as young as, in the 8th grade, I started getting drawn to being interested to understand what business is all about.
Okay.
So I started doing internship every summer in different group companies.
Did you get paid in those internships?
No, of course not. Of course not. I was a kid. So I was just understanding how things work. I've always been enamored, and I've always believed that business is a wonderful platform to impact positive change. That's the model we have always had, that how can you use business to make a positive impact to the world around you.
Yeah.
So I've been quite clear. I went to the US for most of my education. I came back to India because I always knew this is the platform, which is a wonderful platform for both
did you
me
have
and
the
my brother.
choice? Did you have the choice? Did you and Puneet have the choice?
Definitely. I mean, my parents never insisted that we have to join the business. In fact, there was a time where my brother was evaluating whether, business is the thing he wants to dive into straight off, and, our parents were completely okay with it. Obviously, both of us then got drawn into the business.
And is it easy having your dad as a boss?
He really empowers people, and I mean really empowers. So he believes that everyone needs to develop their own style of management. So whilst he's always there for guidance, the door is always open. He's given both Puneet and I wonderful amount of space, to develop our own style. So it's been very empowering.
So let's talk about that space. Tell me how are you and Puneet spinning a new yarn when it comes to Arvind?
So I think we are at a very exciting phase, at Arvind, and we look at, the company now as a very dynamic, upcoming conglomerate. And over the next 5
So you don't just look at yourself as a textile company anymore?
Not at all. In fact, I think we have left textiles back quite a time back, wherein we used to be a one business company. But today, if you look at our group, it's a very, very interesting blend of the old manufacturing business as well as new age businesses. Take, for instance, our brands and retail business, which is one of the largest businesses the group has. Or take the new businesses which we are developing, like technical textiles, which my brother Puneet is putting in place, or the entire digital business, which I'm involved with. So in a way, we have a variety of businesses spanning new age and old age. There's innovation all around in the group.
But it's all centered around textiles.
I wouldn't say so.
Or garments.
The garments are still a large part of the overall portfolio, but if you look at the newer businesses which we are developing, for example, we have an engineering business which is doing very well. We have a real estate business which is now separately listed, which is a very, very exciting business for the group. We are into the whole environmental space with water purification and management. So there's a lot of new age businesses which are being invested in by the group. So we do look at ourselves as a conglomerate and not as just a textile focused company.
But you mentioned digital, and today the business model seems to be to burn cash, whatever cash you find, even if you don't generate cash.
Yes.
Is that your business model as well?
No, in fact, see, the way e-commerce is today defined in India is in a narrow way of the usual reseller model. That's a model which is basically a technology and infrastructure play.
Yeah.
That's not kind of a business where Arvind would be interested in, participating and trying to create value. So what we are in the process of building is an omni-channel model. And what we mean by omni-channel is that it's not a pure e-commerce model. We are bringing the online and offline worlds and bringing them together. So how do you create a one inventory and one consumer? And for us, e-commerce is not just a transaction platform. The brands of the future are going to be built digitally. So what we are establishing is a digital business model wherein if you connect the online and offline worlds, the way you can build brands will be fundamentally different. So we are not in the reseller business. We are the originators of brands, and the digital footprints we have will allow us to sell these brands in a very rich way. So suppose you are on your way to watch a movie and you have an app on your smartphone. Why wouldn't you, look at the store of your choice in the mall you're visiting, see the inventory live on your phone, and just have the store keep it packed for you on the way to the movies? You can just quickly try it, buy it, and go to the movie. Now this is an online, offline, blended journey. We completely have this. So that's where the model is headed. This technology we have built in-house, and I think it is going to empower the group to build brands in a completely new way, to kind of engage and get brand content to our loyal consumers in a different way.
Is this technology helping you sign on new brands?
Of course, it's a given in today's day and age. If you are just
so how many brands do you have, and how many are on the table that you could be bringing?
So we have more than 15 international brands, and if you take all the homegrown brands, and the number is more than 25. So it's a very exciting business. I think it's a business where we have.
But are you making money with this business?
Of course. It's it's a 3,500 crore top line business for us, and soon to be a double-digit EBITDA. So it's a very valuable.
We're hearing
business.
About 25%.
And growing at more than 25%. So we have this very bold vision that there should be a 9,000 crore business by 2022. And the great thing about the business is that we have a portfolio which is wonderful for the future. It's a very future-ready portfolio. There's a lot of brands which are youth-oriented brands. There are brands, we are in the specialty retail side. Value fashion, which is a huge emerging opportunity. We have Unlimited, which is our model, which is doing extremely well. We have gotten into adjacent segments like beauty, which we believe are going to explode in the country with Sephora. So I think it's a very exciting portfolio. It's a future-ready portfolio, and with the organic growth itself.
Are you looking at inorganic growth?
We will constantly look at what are the future markets which are emerging, and if we can find a brand which fits a market need, we would constantly look at adding it to the portfolio. So for us, it's a dynamic way of evolving the portfolio. And as and when a market opens up or a great, brand gets developed in any part of the world, we would see whether there is a fit to bring it to India, or we would see whether Arvind itself should create a new brand.
Well, Arvind Brands is a 3,000 crore rupee company growing in double digits. The target is to have a top line of 9,000 crore rupees. What's the target for Dalal Street? Stay tuned. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes to find that out. Welcome back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayanthara Rai. We are in conversation with Kulin Lalbhai today. We're coming to you also from the 440-acre factory in Ahmedabad. Kulin, I was talking to you about Arvind Brands.
Yes.
When are you going to list it?
So I can't get into a specific schedule on the listing, but what we have always maintained is, we want to unlock value. We want to reward the shareholders. So right now we had an equity infusion last year, where multiples came in, and took 10% of the company. We are very well set on our internal plans of growth right now, and we will constantly evaluate, ways to unlock value. So it's definitely something.
Are you crowding for funds though?
No, in fact, right now we have enough internal accruals for all of the growth plans that the company has. And as and when we would need anything beyond that, obviously, we can always access capital.
But if I were to look at Arvind Limited, what's the debt at? Are you at a comfortable position?
We are very comfortable. In fact, most of the inflow that came out of the private equity deal went
750 crore rupees, just for the benefit
went
of
towards retiring the long-term debt. So the company is barely sitting on any long-term debt now. Most of it is the working capital, and the way we look at it is, we look at the debt to EBITDA ratio, and as the company moves towards, a ratio of close to 2, we believe that we are in a very, very comfortable position. In fact, the balance sheet has never been this strong in the history. So we are actually sitting in a very strong place. We are very clear that the way we want to grow the company, we want to grow and put in capex in line with our internal accruals.
So what is your capex?
On average, we have been spending close to 500 crores of capex every year. It's all funded through internal accruals.
So, you know, we at ET Now have come up with a new campaign, which is Rise with India. So, you know, I want to talk to you a bit about that. And also, you know, right now there's so much rhetoric that's going on about jobs. But when I come here, it's quite encouraging to see that a company like Arvind seems to be in expansion mode. You clearly, you know, and the people here speak very proudly of Arvind. So I could talk to you about jobs.
Yeah.
What are you doing to ensure that India stays on track? There is, we don't have to worry about jobless growth.
No, I think India has an incredible opportunity. If you look at the world over and you look at the trade in textiles, for example, since we are talking about Arvind, in the $700 billion plus of textile trade, India has 3.5% share. And you have China with 35%.
And we've lost it considerably over the
No,
years.
and you know, you have one country like China, which is 35%. And the unique opportunity is that as China moves up in the manufacturing value chain, they're actually going to be exiting, you know, the traditional textile space, low-cost manufacturing. And India has this huge requirement of moving agrarian labor into low-cost manufacturing. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for India to move into, say, the space vacated by countries like China and create jobs at a very large scale. And I think we have a lot going for us today. We have one of the youngest populations, a great amount of labor availability. We have the supply chain. It's one of the highest cotton growing countries in the world. So it's a once in, you know, a lifetime opportunity for India to double.
But don't you think it's also a sector being ignored by the government? This is literally a sector that, you know, comes right from the soil, add value chain, and you can earn dollars.
I think there's been quite a lot of policy decisions over the last couple of years which are specifically meant to strengthen the value chain. No, it has. In fact, the government came out with a very good scheme of supporting garmenting, which is required if you want to build the whole value chain. So I wouldn't say that there is no focus. That being said, you know, if obviously we have certain enablers, we can further accelerate.
How has the recent currency trend impacted you?
I think that is a definite worry for exports.
Yeah,
you know, we are in a situation where because of flows and various other macro issues, we have a strong currency. We do feel that.
And you've had to fight cotton prices as well.
Yes, I think the cotton prices are correcting though. I think the world market supply demand is such that cotton prices will remain benign. The bigger worry obviously is when there are short-term strong strengthenings in currencies, they will always lead to pressures. So we are hoping that the correction will happen over time, even as far as the currency is concerned, but it is definitely an area of worry for competitiveness of exports.
So, I mean, like the RBI says it's not going to interfere.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's nothing that you guys can do except
definitely,
maybe have
you know,
better hedging deals.
I think one thing is to have an active hedging policy. That being said, that over medium periods of time, the inflation differentials will kick in.
Yeah.
And currencies do come back to normalization. Of course, because of short-term flows, you will have periods which are different.
How's life post 1st of July? I mean, post GST?
Well, personally, I think GST is a game changer. No country can progress with a tax to GDP ratio which is very low. We cannot invest in our future. So I think it's a phenomenal thing as far as nation building is concerned. And even if we come to business, I think formalization of the economy is the need of the hour. I think it is going to be a game changer in our industry. Both textiles and brands have traditionally been very unorganized, and when you are unorganized, there is a lot of inefficiency. Scale does not come in. I think there is going to be a massive transformation.
But the transition, how was that at Arvind Limited and at Arvind Brands? I'm sure there was a lot of destocking, you know, a lot of discounts, flash sales.
See, the good news is, you know, we are a very resilient economy. We are a very resilient value chain. So I think things are normalizing as quickly as one can expect. In fact, in the month of August itself, the demand side is normalizing. Of course, you had a shock for a couple of months. But I think I'm personally very, very impressed at the speed with which the market is accepting the change, taking on the challenge and transitioning.
Okay, so with that, let's take a short commercial break. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. We're coming to you from Arvind's factory in Ahmedabad. Welcome back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayanthara Rai. Today we're coming to you from Arvind Limited's 440-acre factory in the outskirts of Ahmedabad. I'm here to interview Kulin Lalbhai, and they also have an innovation studio right here in the midst of this factory.
Yes.
You've always been very proud of the patterns. It's something the group has always done, right?
Yeah, I think the business of fashion is no longer just about design. I think there's technology at the heart of everything. So even this industry, it is reinventing itself continuously. And at Arvind, we are not just about conventional design and manufacturing. We always have invested very heavily in product innovation, partnering with global brands, coming up with new concepts, and bringing them to customers globally.
So how important is this in the overall fit? Like if I were to talk numbers and revenues, like is it very significant, or is most of your business still, let's say, like from supplying denim to a Levi's straws?
No, but denim itself constantly reinvents.
Innovating, yeah.
You have wearable tech inside of denim today. So unless as a company you are constantly innovating, bringing out new concepts, to the market. So for example, today almost all the denim you wear has performance stretch.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it wasn't the case.
10 years ago, we wouldn't have worn skinny jeans.
Exactly. So I mean, it's companies like Arvind partnering with global brands, innovating across the value chain, across the product invention cycle that brings these new concepts to consumers.
So when you do this, do you do this only for your exports business, for the global brands you work with, or are all your patterns also available in India?
Not at all. In fact, one of the biggest advantages, for example, Arvind brand has. The Arvind brand's business can leverage all the innovations that the group makes. So a lot of the concepts you will see, which hit the stores with with some of our brands, will be concepts developed here. Okay. So for example, if you will see the Arrow 4-in-1 shirt, it was in a lab like this that it would have been created a couple of seasons before you'd finally see it in the store.
So we're in your innovation studio. Do you want to take us through one of the patents?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting patent which we have filed. So, you can
take it down, show it to everyone.
Yeah. So, blends are a rage today because when you bring different fibers together, you get very unique properties. So what you're looking at here is a tencel polyester blend, wherein we have patented how you can put indigo into the fiber. So you get this beautiful,
it's really light, I have to say.
Very light. You get this beautiful
lightweight
drape.
as well.
It's very good on performance. You can put all kind of intelligent performance on it as well. And you can do it with blends you would never have been able to using
And I don't think you need to iron this either. So that's
yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the drape and the durability. So this is just one example. I think we have constantly a pipeline of these innovations which the company keeps coming up with.
So I know you did engineering from Stanford. So did that come in handy?
No, I think always an engineering mindset helps. I would say this is the fundamental DNA of the company. It's what the company has been built on. We're constantly striving to take it up a notch and to constantly be at the forefront of innovation.
You were also telling me about how you're coming out with all this innovation and trying to marry technology with retail and your brands, etc. So I'm going to ask you a cheeky question. If you're really that innovative, how do you know you're not going to become the target of someone, let's say, like an Amazon?
No, I think...
How will you shield yourself?
I think in the age of disruption, you have to be willing to disrupt yourself. So if you are not willing to embrace the disruption, like for example, the world of omnichannel, if you just sit and say, I'm all about the physical world, let someone else think about digital, and you lose the ability to build brands in the digital age, you will no longer be relevant. So Arvind is making very, very strong investments in the entire digital landscape ahead of the time. It's a unique level of investment we are making where, one would think that building a startup within a conventional company is something that can't be done. But you have to challenge that.
You did that, yeah.
Arvind Internet is a startup that is empowering the digital toolkit right into the heart of the business model of brands. So you have to embrace the disruption. Disruptions can always be difficult, but they usually, if you can navigate them, they're huge opportunities.
No, but that's exactly my point. If you are going to be a disruptor, how do you stop someone as huge as a SoftBank or an Amazon making you their target?
So the way I look at the whole .com partners, I think for us we are not being disrupted by them. In fact, they are partners to us because all of our brands sell through them. So they are bringing a huge amount of new access to our customer base. At the same time, we need to have our own digital toolkits. So we are not a retailer that looks at the online world as a threat. For us, they are our partners. So how a mall is my partner in the offline world, you know, a big marketplace is the online mall partner. So for us, they are partners.
The other thing that really fascinated me was that I've always thought I'm a pretty good multitasker, but after I've come here, how do you divide your time between the textiles, the brands, the digital, the retail, the e-commerce? How do you do it? And real estate?
So the way we are structured at Arvind, we have a wonderful management team in all of our businesses. So the businesses are actually operated on a day-to-day level by the CEOs of the business. The role of the promoters is to wear the entrepreneurial hat, to be catalysts, to help, you know, at the board level have the right decisions taken on capital allocation. So, you know, the promoters at Arvind do not operate the companies hands-on. We are here as enablers that can help, you know, get the best out of all the wonderful people, the management team which we have at Arvind. Otherwise, there's no way you can scale yourself.
You also said earlier in the interview, and you talked about how it's also the promoter's role. So do you think these are all the businesses you'll stay in, or are you already figuring out that what you need to put your fingers into next?
So I think you always have to think about things in horizons.
So what do you think you have today? Like when I say today, I mean these, you know, last couple of months.
So for example, we have our textile business and brands business, which are already very well entrenched leadership position businesses which are scaling rapidly. So there would be the here and now challenge of how we scale these the right way. Then there are the next few bets the group has made, say technical textiles, say the area of digital, say the area of water. So that's where we are incubating new businesses. So they are at a different point in their life cycle. So I think you have to balance a portfolio so that you're not missing out on value creation opportunities of the future, but are still creating value in the present as well. So I mean, that's the balance that one has to achieve.
And you know, like we've already established, you cannot have success without failure. I wanted to ask you that how tough was the 90s about? Like we've all read about how Arvind had to go through a very trying time, very high debt, maybe there was fears of bankruptcy. Do you remember those days at all, or what have you learned from whatever your dad's told you?
So I was personally too young to have been in the business at the time, so obviously I didn't experience it firsthand.
But kids know when things are off, you know.
Of course, and I think anyone who sees business cycles, there is so much wisdom that comes into an institution which you learn then from obviously say the chairman and various other people in management who were there. There's a lot of wisdom, obviously the usual things you learn. Fundamentally for me, one of the deeper learnings is about how important it is to stay true to your values in trying times. At Arvind, I think one of the biggest strengths that we had is in all of those times, we always put our partners and stakeholders at the forefront. And fundamentally, those kind of relationships and the goodwill is what allows us today to kind of really be able to take advantage of all the opportunities we have. So I think that deeper learning about always staying true to values.
Okay, so once again, I'm going to try my luck. Are you going to give me a timeline for the IPO?
I can't specifically give you any timeline.
Or is it going to be at the time of the exit of multiples?
Again, I can't get into specifics here, but definitely value creation for our shareholders is always top of mind.
You're wearing a US Polo t-shirt. Is that your favorite brand in your portfolio?
It's one of the most successful brands, I think, today in India. In 5 years, it's a 1,000 crore brand. It's a case study. Yes, it's a case study of sorts. And I think people across age groups have embraced the brand. Obviously, we love it as well.
There's all this talk of will the government liberalize FDI. Where do you stand on this, especially when it comes to multi-brand and single brand? There are limitations when it comes to sourcing, for example.
Honestly, in large box retail, that might be relevant. But I think in our category, which is much more of a single brand retailing category, the whole FDI question doesn't arise because 100% FDI is allowed in single brand retail. Most of the lifestyle category.
No, for example, where I would imagine an opportunity for Arvind is they're now talking about 100% FDI provided the goods are made in India. You know, there's a huge opportunity for you.
No, that's true. And I think naturally there is a need for people to make in India in this category because there are tariffs on imported goods. So as brands scale, they generally localize the manufacturing because there'd be a big advantage which they can pass on to their customers. So there are naturally brands do end up making in India.
US Polo, you said, is a case study, 1,000 crore rupees done, which is, forgive me for asking, the worst performing brand in your portfolio.
See, I don't think there is anything specific as a worst performing brand. I think wherever
the disappointment.
No, I think wherever there are areas where you are not gaining traction, you keep pivoting. So one of the areas we are trying to now scale up is women's wear. It's a huge opportunity. The group still has a more men's focused portfolio.
I'm very happy to hear that.
So the women's area is one which we are looking at scaling up.
Okay. And my final question to you, and I always ask this from the young entrepreneurs. Traditionally, you know, entrepreneurs have always personally liked to invest in real estate. Would you like to share with us where you think, you know, young people should be investing? Should it be mutual funds? Should it be gold? Should it be equity markets? Or, you know, what? I always ask these questions, always fun.
So from a personal side, I think having a diverse asset class is the way I look at things. You know, I think each asset class gives a very different kind of return and risk profile. So ideally having a blend wherein obviously you would want some amount in equity, some amount in say real estate, but even newer asset classes, like I think the whole area of angel investing, I think it is an asset class which can be there in the mix.
Okay.
And today there are various ways through which you can access, you know, innovative sectors, maybe even through the mutual fund.
You mean like be a limited partner for an angel
investor? Or you can be a part of an angel network. So there are various new asset classes which also emerge. So I think a balance is an interesting way to look at it.
Kulin, thank you so much for inviting us and giving us an interview.
Pleasure having you guys here.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/etnow.